Let me introduce you to my 2026 reading journal. Today, I'm going to be setting up the cover pages as well as giving you a sneak peek of a few of the spreads I've already penciled out. So stay tuned. Hey guys, I'm Tracy and this is A Girl with Plans. I want to welcome you all back to my channel. And for those of you that are here for the first time, welcome. I want to thank you all so much for pressing that play button today, because today's video is the first video in my 2026 reading journal series. Yes, there will probably be several videos because I am not someone who sets up their reading journal all at one time. As I said, I already have some spreads penciled in. I actually have one that is complete. We'll probably share that with you today, but I can't sit down. I know some people will like create their entire reading journal over the course of a week. And it's not that I don't have the time, although right now I really don't have the time. It's more that I start to get bored and I don't want to rush through any spreads just to get them done. So I figured let's just start putting them together as I feel like it. And then hopefully by the time December comes around, I've gotten all of my kind of main tracking pages done, and then once the reading challenges start coming out, then I can start working on those that month. So that's why I start early, but that just means more videos for you guys. And I love setting this up and putting it together, and I do think a lot of you have shown interest in my setup of this. So before we kind of get started and talk about the theme and all that good stuff, let me kind of go over the reading journal. So this is an Archer and Olive 8x8 reading journal. I kind of chuckle a little bit because for the past 2 years, I have used a B5, and I've talked about how much I love the B5. This isn't that much smaller because it's an 8x8. It's a little bit wider than a B5, but it is shorter. I think the B5 is like a 10 by maybe 6 something. I don't know exact. It's a little bit larger. It has similar dimensions to like a classic size planner. So yeah, but I want to try something different. I feel like the square layouts could be a little bit easier when it comes to decorating. And I really like to go heavy with the decorating in this particular journal, as you will see. So this is from Archer and Olive. This I purchased when they did the Bring Back the Favorites sale. I believe that was in spring or late winter of 2025. This just caught my eye. I thought it was so pretty, and at the time I was like, I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but then once I got my hands on it, it was like, this will make a perfect reading journal. I don't know why. It just looks like a storybook to me. It might even be the name of the collection, I'm not sure, but and I was like, you know, I kind of want to do this, and I think it'll be kind of cool to do like a fairy tale theme. And I gone back and forth about, do I want to do like a compilation of fairy tales? Do I want to just have it like a fairy tale-esque theme and not a specific actual story? And then maybe once we get into the monthlies, each month I can do like my own fairy tale. Like one time I can do like Snow White, and another time I can do something else. And then I got inspiration from mainly like Cora Korea Crafts. They did a box, and I'm like, that's what I want to do the entire year and not just 1 month. And that is, I'll show you some of the papers I got from the Cora Korea Crafts. And yes, I'm turned away from my phone, so you probably can't hear me that well. And you can see if any of these papers give you kind of insight on my theme. Does that help at all? Does that help you decide on, or help you figure out the theme? This one might be a little bit better. Or what about that one? It's going to be Alice in Wonderland. You might have figured that out now. But I have a lot. Some of these, I think came from Cora Korea Crafts. These came from a Temu shop. And then I also have some printables. I have a sticker book. I have a stamp set. Oh, here's another Cora Korea Crafts. These cool frames. I have, this is Cora Korea. This is just a sticker book I got off of Temu, but I've also seen this on Amazon. I've gotten that. You can see I have some paper on my desk. I've done some prints that I got from Creative Fabrica. And then, oh no. Sorry guys, I was just looking at this. I didn't check it. For some reason, the entire title is off. I'm going to have to redo the title at some point. We'll do that later. I have everything else. But yeah, so I gotten a Creative Fabrica kind of membership for like a month or two. It's like $3.99 a month or something like that. And basically there are art prints and clip art and things like that that you can choose from for that month, and it comes with your monthly total. You don't get unlimited, you get like a set amount of like 10 or whatever, but it's a great resource. And a lot of those same images I also see on Etsy, so it actually turns out to be a little bit cheaper on Creative Fabrica. But yeah, so I got some images and started working. I also used Canva, specifically Canva Pro. I will share with you one of the spreads I've already completed with using Canva Pro. I currently don't have Canva Pro just because I'm super busy and I wouldn't utilize it right now. But that's the reason why I kind of started doing the setups kind of early as well, because when I had those like tools, I wanted to go ahead and use them. So before I start, if you want to get your own journal from Archer and Olive to set up a bullet journal, you can use my discount code AGWP to save 10%. However, remember, you do not need a bound or a fancy journal. You can use whatever you want. I started out in a disc bound system, which I really liked. I just like the way I can put this back on the shelf when it's done. I just like the way it looks. So that's why I switched to a bullet journal. Plus, I kind of have now came up with a setup that I like, so I don't have to worry as much about being able to remove pages and things like that. But I believe Happy Planner even has a reading journal that they came out with, so you can use that. I know that Hell of a Plan has one, wrong, so the possibilities are endless. So yeah, with that said, this is the inside. This is what we're going to be doing today. You can kind of see what I was thinking. I was thinking about doing like a peephole, because that is like symbolism, plus that's what she peeps through and sees Wonderland. So I think that's what we're going to do. And I think I'm going to tape these two pages down together, because this has like the weird kind of thing, plus it's plain and this. And if I do the peephole and I cut it out, it gets complicated. But I think if I tape it down, it could have like a 3D effect. So that could be kind of cool. I have a couple of pages kind of mapped out. So I'll just kind of tell you the order, just in case you are starting to think about the reading journal setup and I don't get to these pages in this video or the next video. You can kind of think about how the order I have them in. So after this, I'm going to do an intro page, and here is like a sneak peek of the theme for this. I think I'm going to just do clocks and time, because this is going to be, like I said, it's more of an intro page. This is where I'm going to have the definitions of my ratings. I may even put a pocket in here to house some kind of key information for other parts of my journal, like a color coding key in case I don't have room on spreads or things like that. So this is an information journal. An information page. And then we're going to kind of get to the story of Alice in Wonderland. I think I'm going to try to keep it in like order of the story, but that might get flipped based on, do I really want to have this spread be this thing and things like that. And I don't want to change the order of, like the order of what the information is, but I could just change the decorative elements. It's fine. It'll be close enough. You'll see what I'm talking about as I discuss what I'm thinking. So the next page I'm not going to show you because it's not finished yet, which means you will see it as we finish it together. It is my goals page. So I'm going to have how many books I'm going to read this year, how many books I want to read this year. I think it's going to be probably like in the 75 range, because I have yet to hit that. I've come close. It's still quite a bit of time left at the filming of this one. Got like a couple months left. So we'll see. I don't think so, because I usually slow down toward the end of the year. But usually the 75 is enough. So I like to set that as my threshold. If I read more than that, then whoa, yay, great. So that's probably going to be it. But then I'm going to set a few other ones there. And for the theme of that one, I'm kind of going to start with her going to the tree, following the rabbit, and seeing the rabbit hole type thing. Then I'm going to share with you the one that I completed. This was done all on Canva Pro. So if you just have the free version, a lot of the elements I used, all of the elements I used, you would not be able to do this. I think it showed that I had like $22 worth of pro elements, because it shows you that. All right, so this is going to be my gallery wall. So I moved this up in the book. And the reason why you move this up to the closer to the front in the book is because my gallery wall is one of my most used spreads as far as reference throughout the year. It's kind of crazy how that happens, but I print out the cover of the books. Let me go ahead and show you what it is first. Look at that, y'all. Look at that. It turned out so pretty. And this year I went ahead and did the stars on the page. So I just printed this out. I printed out 2 sheets, 8x8, put frames on it. I kind of wanted the black and white. I went back and forth about whether or not to do like a colorful, crazy, kooky kind of frames, because like in the cartoon, that's how it was. But I'm like, let's bring a little bit of elegance to some of these pages. And I'm really liking the silhouette look too. So yeah, this is her falling down the rabbit hole. This is just some, I think I did like swirly brown as what I searched for when I searched for the background image, and this is what it was. It kind of gives you that tree effect, and you can see down here's a circle, and I was so lucky to be able to match these 2 pages up. I was not as successful on the other pages, but that's fine. But I'm gonna put the photos of the books here, and this year I think there are lots closer in size to one another versus in 2025 or this current year. They are all different sizes, and it made it really hard to print them out. At this point, I just print them out at the same size, and they look a little wonky, but it works. So yeah, I'll print out the book covers, but while I'm waiting for the book covers, I'll just pencil in the title because I'll put the cover over it. So I just pencil it in, and then a lot of times I'll go ahead and do the rating. But because I'm penciling it in, this is probably one of the one spreads that is kind of kept up to date a little bit more frequently. A lot of my other ones get updated once a month. So yeah, isn't it cute though? I put like little elements. I did them a little lighter for falling, and then I'll show you the second page. So there are only 20 books per page. I always like kind of wanted 100, but I'm like 80's fine. And then here's another one. See, she's still falling. This one didn't line up as well. Oh no, this one lined up as well too. But yeah, so yeah, there we go. From here, we will do the next page at a later time because I have to actually, I'm also doing a similar background, but I have cut around it because I'm going to be doing some things by hand as well. It's going to be my bookshelf, and I am going to, again, do that by genre. So we'll show you that at a later time. This is no longer relevant. So we're going to go from the, shelfie, which is just kind of like a reading log for me. I don't actually have another reading log, so this is my reading log, and then we'll have my shelfie, which is going to be showing you what it is by genre. Then here, I don't know where the Post-its are. I lost this Post-it. This one is, I think, what's the next one? It can tell me what it is. I might need to change this. No, I think it's right. I think I'll do the series tracker here. And I'm moving it up because, if we're like tracking books that I read, I figured series tracker kind of goes next in order. You can see how I'm kind of trying to decide that. That was a little bit further back this year. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to do that. Do I want to do it just in table format? Do I want to write each one individually and then do like little boxes or circle under that one? When I say table, you just write the titles of the series like on each line, and then you just color in the boxes based on it. So we'll see, but this one I think is going to be the room that she ends up landing in, where she has the doors and the table with the cake and the drink to get bigger and smaller. That's how I think I'm going to do this, but I really need to figure out how I want to do this page before I get there. So that's going to be this one. Then we are going to come to the priority TBR and physical TBR. So physical TBR is going to be different from the priority TBR. Priority TBR is going to be like new releases. Like if I'm in the middle of a series and I'm like, cannot wait until the next book comes out, that will go on the priority TBR. So it's kind of going to be serving as a reminder for new releases, because I try to do like a new release page on the back of my journal this year, never updated it. I do kind of put those on my monthly page. But yeah, so I think I might do that, plus any books that I didn't get to this year that I really wanted to read, that will go on my priority TBR. And then my physical TBR will be the ones on my shelf. So what I'm kind of toying with here is doing 26 and 26 and then doing 13 and 13. I think that could be a good way to kind of balance it out, because with physical books, I don't really like reading physical books. I love my Kindles and my audiobooks. So I figure 13 is a little bit more manageable. So yeah, and then I think here, being as we're like landing and she kind of sees the doors and stuff, I think we're going to do like the mushroom garden, like the mushrooms, the garden and stuff like here. I think that's what we're going to do here. And then we're going to come to the 5 stars and the DNF. I like keeping them across from one another. They don't need their own page. I don't give as many 5 stars and I give even less DNFs. I'm going to get better about that. I'm not going to read what I don't like anymore. So yeah, but I think I'm going to do like the forest as it's going, like still daylight type thing. And then we'll get to the nighttime forest here. So, you know, kind of good and evil type thing. And then we're going to have the battle of the books. And I think we're going to do the tea party. And then we're going to do quotes, and I don't know what that's going to be. It could be the tea party, or it can just be a regular kind of theme with that. I thought about moving it up and maybe even putting it closer to the beginning, but I think in the end, I just kind of want to put this here. I might not even set it up until later, like later into 2026. We'll see. And then we're going to have my challenges page, and all of the challenges are definitely TBD. I have no idea what the themes. I just think with the challenges, I kind of want this to be a Queen of Hearts type theme. So I think I might do a 2-page fun spread here. And I don't know if I need a table of contents because you'll see it's like 8 pages. But I think it'll be pretty to do kind of like an extravagant kind of little cover page. I didn't do one for the trackers just because they're at the very front. But I feel like that could be good for here. And then we'll get to maybe a readathon log and a challenge log. So I can have them both here, like a place to put them. Or I could put the challenge log here. Maybe I could do like a little table of contents here, but then the readathons, I'm talking about more of my monthly readathons and not the annual readathons, because the annual readathons are going to have their own page. You'll see in a minute, but I'm thinking more of those monthly readathons that I choose to take on, and I don't know which one I'm really going to take on until the month prior comes, because that's when everybody starts releasing them. But I'm still trying to figure out if I need 2 pages or not. Again, this is definitely something that's going to get set up in December as things start popping off. And speaking of December, so when we talk about readathons, I'm thinking a lot of the ones that I've been doing are going to continue, but you never know. There are a lot of, these creators put a lot of work into creating these readathons or these challenges. So, they may not happen at any particular time. So this is me with my fingers crossed because I love these in particular. So we have the Avengers and Aldea. That's a year-long readathon. I have a separate journal for that. So I plan on like just putting the books that I read with the prompts underneath, and then I'll get fancier in that separate journal. It's a B5 blackout journal. I've done a flip through or 2. It's probably time for me to get ready to do another one. And then I'll probably do the Year of Goober, which Jess with Joshi Corinne, she has been doing that with her friends for a couple of years. We'll see if that continues. So I'm going to be holding out a spot for that. So that's why I said I can't put any of these together until they actually, get unveiled. And then we have Buzzword, which is something that I've also done for the past few years. And then with the Buzzword, I think that's Books and Lala is the one that puts that one together. I love the Buzzword. There is like a word, and that's how you choose your book for that one. It might be a word that needs to be in the title, or it might be a feeling of the book. Like one of them was like this year, like a memory. Something to do with memory. So like I did Lost. So I did like the last Lost Girl. So that's kind of how it works too. And then this year she actually did a cover challenge. I did not do that one because that came out after I had already pre-planned everything in my journal. So I was like, I'm not going to do that this year. That's why I'm kind of holding out. I'm like, these are going to get done later. So the cover challenge is just like the Buzzword, but each month there's like a prompt for the actual cover. And then we're going to have these. It could be bingo. It could be A to Z. It could be neither. Because with bingo, I find myself not really trying to black out the board until the 4th quarter of the year. So like the other 3 quarters, I read a book and I'm like, oh, does it fit any of these prompts? Oh yeah, it does. Check. So I don't like go to the prompts and try to find a book for that. I just kind of go with the flow. The same thing A to Z. I just like read a book, see if I I already filled in that alphabet. If I haven't, then I fill it in. And then come to the 4th quarter, that's when I start trying to read the books that start with a Z and X and U and stuff like that. So I don't really know if it really serves a purpose. I feel like they're in my journal because of tradition, and they're easy to create and they're fun to decorate. So I don't know. We'll see. These are kind of question marks. They'll probably definitely be toward the end. We'll see if there's any other fun challenges that might take its place. The other thing that I'm kind of thinking about, if I did a bingo, do I do 2 bingos? Maybe do a first 6 months and a second 6 months, in which case I would decorate it, set up of the squares or the grid, but I wouldn't fill in maybe the second 6 months until we start getting closer to it. And then that will be it for the challenges. I don't want to do too much, especially because I am going to be probably incorporating monthly readathons because I've really enjoyed those this year. Then I'm going to have another cover page. Yes, I'm wasting pages, but I think with a lot of these, I won't be able to go as decorative heavy just because of the fact that it's going to be a lot of like context on here and stuff like that, and information and places to put covers and things like that. So the cover pages is my opportunity to do that. So I'm going to have a monthly section here. Brief pause. I have not talked about what's missing from my book. So in the first section where we're talking about like overall stuff, I'm not going to have a year in pixels this year. I think I tried to do that and I was semi-consistent the first 2 months, and then I really lost consistency the third month, and then after that I just didn't do it. I just don't want to be in this journal every day. The idea is to be in it a couple times a month, for a fact, like only like be in there more than that, but at least like to set it up and then to come in and write your like your recaps and update your stats and stuff like that. So like a couple times, however, I might come in and do some reviews throughout or whatever. But I don't want something that kind of like makes me feel like I have to come in here every day. So that's gone. And then the monthly recaps and stats, I'm going to be moving my stats pages to the actual monthly recap section. So we'll do the cover page here, and then this is where my stats log is going to be. So this is just going to be a table, and it's going to have the months, January through December, and then it's going to have broken down categories for the stats I want. I have some ideas kind of based on this year, like how many total books I read, how many were physical, audio, blah, 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 average rating, total pages, DNFs, things like that. So I can just see all 12 months at a glance. So that's what this one's going to be. It's going to be 2 pages. And then we're just going to hop right in from there to my monthlies. And my monthlies are now going to be 6 pages. I'm going to reserve 6 pages for that. This past year, I didn't reserve any, or this current year, I haven't reserved any, because I've just been setting up for the month, and then I've been writing the reviews with that month. So all of my January books are reviewed with January. That's gone. That is gone. And that's gone because sometimes I might want to decorate for the month of February on like January 10th because inspiration hits, or I already know the readathon I'm going to do. So I'm like, let me go ahead and decorate it. And as I said, I like to decorate things when I feel like decorating it. When I'm like trying to do like book reviews, I don't know how many books I'm going to read. So I don't know how much space to leave. And I don't really want to have just random blank pages. So that's why I'm going back to how I did it the first year, which is just put my monthly recaps all together and then have a separate section for my reviews. So I'm going to do 6 pages because I think I'll do a fun just cover here. Then I think I'll do my calendar here, and then I'll do my TBR here, and then my stats here. And then that will leave me 2 pages for the readathons. If I choose not to do a readathon, it's fine because I'm not setting up any of the future stuff like before I set up. Like I'm not going to be setting up February until January is already set up. So I can just start February a couple pages early. The only reason why I put stickies for each month is to make sure I had enough space at the end of the year to actually house enough review pages, because that is the key when you start doing this. So we get down to December. I know for a fact I'm probably not going to have readathons I'm going to do every single month. And some might not require a whole 2-page setup. So some of this, even though I'm reserving 6 pages, it might only be 4. So there we go there. Then I want to put the end of the year stats here, and it's not going to be the chart or the table because that's at the front. This will just be the fun graphics, the fun pie charts. Now what I could do, now that I think about it, I could move this up to the front. No. Or do I want to? We'll see. I don't need to figure that out because it's not going to like make or break the number of pages. because like at this point, these stickies with the months on it, I don't even need anymore. I just needed to make sure to see how many pages I needed for the monthly sections. But this might actually go up to be behind the statistical table. And then this won't get filled out until the end of the year though, because it's going to be the pie charts and the things like that for the totals, not per month, but just this is how much I did. And the pie charts will come into place with how many books did I read that had over 700 pages, how many had like less than 200, and then like my overall ratings. I like seeing that in chart format. And then a new to me section is going to be my superlatives. And that's kind of like, you know, favorite books type thing, but I have the book battle for this. So this is going to be like, who is my book boyfriend for the year? Who is my book BFF for the year? Meaning character. Like who would I want to be my BFF that's a character? What world would I choose to live in? I don't know yet. This will probably get done at the end of the year as well. At the end of 2026, not 2025. So it might not even be decorated until it won't be decorated. Because I'm going to want to wait until this. So these would be fun. This will be a fun page. Actually, all of these will probably be 2 fun pages that get decorated in December of 2026. And then we will decorate this because this is going to be my book review cover. And we have all of this. Now I have to figure out what I want to do. Do I want to do a fancy cover? And then maybe just list the books here so I know what's on each page. Because if I do that, I could be like page 1 and then have like both books that are going to be on there, because I am planning on doing 2 books per page, not 1 per page. And if I did that, I would have enough room for close to 90 books at the end. However, I might like use like one of these pages for like notes or something. So like I said, I definitely don't think I need more than 80. I don't read like manga or a lot of like short stories. A lot of the books I read are like 300 pages or more. So that does limit the number of books that I read. So yeah, this is what I'm going to be using for my book reviews, and they're just going to go back to back to back. So I might have a book up here that I read in January and the book here that I read in February. I could care less. It's just going to be book review. I don't know if I'm going to do them horizontal or vertical. So that is the layout. I don't know. I haven't done a time check. We're going to probably speed through the rest of the actual setup because I feel like you guys probably just care about the final look. But I'm thinking for this, I had all these out. I was thinking about just covering up this whole page, and I do like the way this looks with that. Plus it's green, right? Not the right color green, but it's also wood grain. I would probably cut it so that way, actually, no, I wouldn't have to cut it. I would just turn this around and that would work. Okay, so I would just do that. We would just have to glue it from this side. So I'll put this here. I'm gonna have to redo my journal title. You'll just see that. I don't even think I'm going to worry about reprinting this because I don't know. Maybe my offset was a little off for that one in Canva. No. Some of the offsets got off. I'm going to have to pause this at some point and go and do it because the offsets get off here and here. And here. What does this look like? That's fine. Yeah, the offsets are definitely off. So the offsets are off there and there. And this is going to be an important part because what I'm thinking is I'm going to tape this down. I would have to do this like now. And then I'm going to draw a peephole. And then I'm going to cut it out because I have to cut it out like with, like I can't cut this out first and then put it down because I also need to cut out of the page. And I'm going to put my title there, and then that's going to be there. And then I'm thinking on this page, I may put the stack of books with the hat because I feel like that could be cool. I may put, I mean, we have houses, we have castles. I think in here we have a reading Alice. We have an Alice here. We don't have a reading Alice. We have a reading Alice somewhere else. But then we also have the little pieces of paper, which this was an option. I feel like this encompasses it. So I can put this behind the peephole and have that looking out. So I don't know. We'll figure it out, or I'll figure it out as I go. So I think what I'm going to do, leave this just as an overhang. Now I do have to kind of have this decision made, because once I glue this down or tape, glue, tape, it doesn't matter. It's going to pretty much ruin the page. Even if I was to use glue gun to get it off, it's just going to ruin the page. So yeah, we would do that, and then we'll cut off the bottom. We are committed now. We are ready to go. I have cut the first piece of paper and I am ready to glue it on the page. I have been going back and forth, I would say, for the better part of the past month, if not a little bit longer, on what I wanted to do for this opening page in my bullet journal. I didn't know if I wanted to kind of go all out, do it almost junk journal style, or do like more of a layered approach and kind of be a little fancy with it. But in the end, I felt like simplistic was better, especially because when I like come up with these complicated ideas, I just really can't execute them very well. They're perfect in my head and then they just don't come out as good as I want them to be. So I figured let's just keep it simple. So I mentioned that this title was cut incorrectly, but I still needed to cut around it to kind of see where the placement is so I can eyeball the correct positioning for this like keyhole or peephole that I'm going to end up cutting out of this page. So I did use a ruler to assist me. I wasn't being like 100% accurate with it, but I wanted to make sure that it was kind of centered. So that way, at least to the eye, it looks pretty centered. And I think I ended up doing a pretty good job. If you know me, I rarely bring out rulers for measurement purposes. I usually only use rulers to make straight lines. But yeah, basically, I'm going to be cutting out the entire peephole. You'll see in a minute, I end up like cutting in the center first because I was going back and forth about whether or not I was going to be able to actually cut this out with an X-Acto knife or if I was going to have to attempt to use my gyro cutter, which I've had for over a year and I don't think I've ever used it because it's very intimidating. And I was like, maybe I'll just have to use scissors. So we'll cut out a spot in the center and kind of work our way around. And then I'm like, let's try it with the X-Acto knife. And it worked pretty well. But for those of you that have like X-Acto knives and plastic, like whether it is plastic rulers or plastic stencils, know the X-Acto knives like to like trim off pieces of the plastic. So unfortunately, I don't know if I'll get like a round circle in the future when I use this particular stencil because it was chipping away at that plastic every time I cut around it. But aside from that, it did do a pretty good job. It had some rough areas, but I'm not sure if that was due to like the knife, the plastic, the knife cutting into the plastic, or the fact that I have a piece of paper glued on top of another piece of paper. I feel like that might have something to do with it as well. But you'll see a little bit later on, I do a decent job of making it look a little smoother. So now what I'm trying to do is figure out what do I want to show through this peephole. We'll call it a peephole. I really like how the rabbit looks, but I end up going with the stack of books because it is a reading journal. I'm going to have a lot more Alice themed stuff than like reading themed decor. So I'm like, let's start with this. It's a little bit more subtle. And because this is my reading journal title page, I'm like, let's just go with this. I kind of like the way it looks. I was smart in the fact that I actually lined it up through the peephole first instead of just sticking it on the back page. I've done that so many times when I've cut things out. So I've learned my lesson and it turned out great that way. You can see it's very crooked on the actual page itself, but it shows through perfectly on the peephole. So maybe it was supposed to be a leaning stack of books and I kind of missed that. I don't know. But that's beside the point because I will be taping those two pages together so you won't actually see anything but what you can see through the peephole. So I'm just doing a little bit more trimming. What I'm going to do in a little bit is I'm going to go off camera and then I'm going to reprint everything. And then I'm going to come back and you're going to see, voila, I have used a Tombow marker to outline our peephole or our lock keyhole. I don't know. So yeah, I have decided to use that to outline it. It gives it a more smoother a look and it actually adds dimension. So I'm really, really glad I did that. I did get some like excess ink on some of the pages, but fortunately because this kind of has a wood grain look, it looks fine. So yeah, that's what I did. And now I'm going to add the last stickers or the last little bit of images. this is like an Alice image, but again, it doesn't scream Alice. Now, I had to do a mirrored version of this because I want it hanging over the opening. And with the hanging over the opening, I need something that matches it on the other side so it doesn't obstruct the parts that are cut away, if that makes any sense. Like, I didn't want it to be a square piece. I like to have it cut where it's cut around the trees, cut around Alice and stuff like that. So that's the reason why I did the mirrored image. Even though you're not going to see what's on the back side of it, it's just the mirrored image helps to prevent any obstruction for the parts that are cut out. So in the end, I love how this turned out. It turned out well. Does it really look 3D? But it looks a little bit more dimensional than 2D. So I'm happy with that. All right, so let's get back to a real time. Guys, look at that. Look at that flip. That I'm glad I went this direction. I think it goes really, really well together. Yeah, maybe even a darker green. I just didn't have a darker green with this wood green. Would have gone a little bit better, but I think it's fine. It looks really good with this. I'm really glad I went with this image. I think this is cool because this gives you more of a nod to Alice. I like this because it's like we have the Alice in Wonderland nods with the Mad Hatter, the clock, and then, you know, if you can tell, I mean, maybe it's not as obvious that this is Alice because, you know, she has the top hat on, but it's very subtle in the hints that it's going to be an Alice in Wonderland themed journal. You have, of course, the peephole, which is kind of a huge theme as far as for the beginning goes. And then even with the next page, it's not going to be overly themed with Alice in Wonderland. It's more going to have the clock kind of theme, and then we're going to start getting into it. But my plan is some pages more than others will be like right on the nose. Alice in Wonderland, it's probably going to be big and heavy with the theme. However, a lot of them, just as many, are not, just because I need the functional space. So I'm going to probably like draw it back a little bit, and it's going to make a more of a nod toward Alice in Wonderland versus wham bam in your face. So this will be very, very interesting. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do certain pages, even though I've kind of figured out the themes. So we're going to see how that goes. But I am excited, and I hope you are too. I hope you're excited enough to join me as I decorate some of the other spreads in this journal. If you enjoyed this particular video, please press that like button. And if you have yet to subscribe, I hope you would also consider subscribing to my channel. That is all I have for now. I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, or night. Until next time, bye.